in the old world, the word for breath and the word for spirit were the same word. The positive is completely influenced by breath. No matter what yogic technique that you're playing with, they're all profoundly influenced by breath.
Welcome to the Sahaja Collective podcast. We are Kirsten,
And Devdas.
and we are really excited to dive today into one of our very, very fundamental, essential, central topics in our personal life, in our practice. I think for humanity, today we'll dive into the breath. The breath is the base, the foundation, literally, of everything. Like it is that with an in breath, we come into this existence, and with an out breath, we leave it, and everything in between is literally sustained by breath. And it really makes our days or ruins our days, basically. And it is such a basic function that we hardly pay attention to, but really, if we set this foundation right, I fear so much of our modern day troubles would be gone.
Definitely.
So we will hop right into what deep breathing can do to us. Or let's start with the problem. What's the problem in breathing?
There's no problem in breathing.
But what's going wrong?
What can go wrong inside of breathing? Um, let's back it up for a moment and kind of look at the whole scope of breath, and we'll say that from the yogic, well, from the science perspective, breath is essential for immunity, physical health, sleep, just kind of countless emotional regulation, just kind of every aspect of our actual nervous system is correlated, whether we're aware of it or not, to our breath. And so, would how you're breathing make a difference? Yes, unequivocally, yes. In fact, now science has stated also unequivocally in recent studies that trauma changes the way that we breathe. So not only does science know that breath is essential to the health of the nervous system, it knows that certain experiences in life can put that in an unideal situation. That's the whole science of yoga right there. It's like breathe right, live right. Something happens, you know, breathe yourself back into your existence. And from the yogic perspective, the whole energy system, which runs the physical system, and this is not in science now, we're now in the realm of yoga, that system runs on breath. Like the essential component of your energetic system is breath, period. If you want to work with that system and keep it healthy and keep it vital, you must breathe well. And in the vast majority of beings in the world that we live in, the energetic system is compromised. Why is the energetic system compromised? Partly because people aren't actively working with it, but even more than that, it's because people aren't breathing. And more than we realize, and this is what we're going to kind of try and hint at in our podcast today, breath is contagious, actually, also. It's like a friend of mine who started the study of yoga. And she's really watching her breath all the time and getting so much joy from watching her breath all the time. Suddenly she's at work and she realizes no matter how hard I try, at some point I stop breathing. Why? Because everybody around you stopped breathing. And it's very hard to keep your system alive and vital and moving while is happening all around you. Um, so it's kind of like a window into the different worlds that we're going to explore today, breath being at the center of the experience.
Breath is impacting our nervous system massively, massively. It impacts where we are operating, from where we are coming, and that relates to so many vital functions of
Mm.
our body.
Yeah,
Can you speak a little bit about it?
sure. I mean, we can take it into the scientific realm, but before we do, maybe we can share just an interesting fact about the yogic tradition and the yogic wisdom. The yogic tradition was you're allotted a certain number of breaths in a lifetime, not a distance of time. Not like, okay, you get 50 years or 70 years or 90 years or 100 years or whatever. You get X number of breaths. And how you spend those breaths is how you've spent your life. People often assume from the practice of pranayama, where sometimes we do forceful breath and move the breath strongly, and that the best way to breathe is fast. But in fact, the best way to breathe is slow. And there's kind of countless scientific studies to back that up. But one of the fun ones that's a trend to look at is longevity. Longevity is just how long you live. And in the animal kingdom, fast breathers have shorter lives and longer breathers have longer lives. Now, like in any kind of like trend that's present in nature, you can find an outlier. You can, okay, this one, breathes a little bit shorter and lives a tiny bit longer than this one. But it's like if you map the whole thing as a trend, it's absolutely 100% true. So, for example, a mouse breathes 100 to 150 breaths per minute. That's super fast. It's just 2 to 3 year lifespan. A dog, now we're getting a little bit slower, a small dog, 20 to 40 breaths per minute, lives 12 to 15 years, human years. Human, 6 to 20 breaths per minute, 6 on the slow side, 20 on the fast side, anywhere between 70 and 120, let's be generous. Years. Tortoise, 3 to 4 breaths per minute, 100 years. Bow whale, 1 to 2 breaths per minute. Just thinking about that, it's so fun. Like 30-second long, beautiful breath is your resting breath rate. Like there's something so magic in it. And the bow whale lives 200 years. So, and there's lots of different ways to look at that scientifically. Some people think that it's oxidative stress, that you over breathe and you over oxidize your system. Some people believe that that's just a kind of efficiency in the life force, that the life force is moving more efficiently. Definitely in the yoga world, we have lots of discussion about, your body using its resources effectively, not overtaxing or overusing the body. But there is this trend, even in lifespan, that's associated with breath. And then we can get more into, I mean, kind of scientifically proven people who breathe through their nose more slowly have better teeth. It's just ones that you think that cannot be true, but it is true. And that one is interesting. That one is because the saliva that's in your mouth protects your teeth actually from decay. And if your mouth is constantly open, and you're constantly breathing through it, you reduce the saliva. When you reduce the saliva, you get more kind of dental problems and infections in the mouth. It's just kind of like on almost every level scientifically, there's support for what the yogis have always said, which is slow, conscious breath makes a huge difference in health and vitality.
In health and vitality, and also really how we feel, like thinking of the nervous
Yeah,
system response, like
yeah,
a short, shallow breath brings us in the sympathetic response of the nervous
yep.
system. That means we feel stressed all the time. That means our heart rate is up. That
Yeah,
means our system is flooded with stress hormones, and this is how we make ourselves feel and move through the day. That means the other part, the parasympathetic function, is not as easy accessible. That means sleep problems. That means digestive problems. That's like so much is reflected of our anxiety, of our problems
yeah,
of today. Like even the limbic system is influenced by our breath, and this is the emotional center, and
yeah.
indecisiveness comes from short, shallow breath. Lack of concentration comes from short, shallow breath. Emotional reactivity, that is all things we try to work with and to fix, and we recognize these problems and find ways to deal with it, from therapy to medication
Drugs.
to whatnot. And actually, the root cause is the breath.
Yeah,
We could bring ourselves into such a more profound state of health and happiness
yeah,
by cultivating our breath.
yeah. It's so funny that you say that in terms of the kind of sociology of it. We had a student on our course who was a librarian at a school, so a librarian for children. And she said, I used to think of myself as a librarian, Devdas, and now I know that that's not my actual job. My actual job is to monitor the breath of the children and make sure that they're breathing.
Mm.
And I was just like, wow. If you hear that from like the normal, like if you told the principal of the school all the librarian's doing is monitoring the breath of the children, he'd probably be outraged. But it affects every single part of our human experience. Would it make a difference if a child in the library was breathing differently? Yes, profound, even in their ability to absorb knowledge.
Uh,
Like, it's just like you said, every level, emotion, concentration, everything, reactivity, overreactivity, all influenced by breath.
and like what I find so interesting about it, that breath is also the base of yoga. Like all the science of yoga is based in the breath. Like when we now really take it as a science for self-discovery, not as a fitness modality. And there's such an broadening in popularity of the yoga practices. And I feel this is such an invitation actually to get back exactly to that, like to use the yoga practice to re-establish the breath. Like it's not that we have to learn a new skill. Like we came into this existence, we knew how to breathe. Like it
Mm-hmm.
just over time we unlearned it, or
Yeah.
we trauma, whatnot, like life experience formed the breath, the collective formed the breath to short and shallow with all its problems that it brings. And I feel it's really a call to all yoga teachers out there to have that in mind with each class that we teach, um, that we can help people relearn breathing and make their day, um,
Make their life.
make their life.
I mean, make your day is an understatement. It's like if the health and vitality of your nervous system, your immune system, basically even the level of your happiness and your awareness of that level are somehow tied to that one function. Like, would you not then just put a massive amount of attention into that? It's like, I feel like breath is one of those kind of challenging things in that it's happening all the time, so we just assume it's going fine.
Yeah.
Like, it's happening.
It
What
doesn't
what do I
hurt.
have to do with it? It's just doing its own thing. It's not
It
like,
doesn't hurt, so it seems to be okay.
yeah, it's like it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Well, yes and no. Like I often feel like just even one simple, long, beautiful, deep ujjayi breath, it's like you're just telling your nervous system everything's okay, and you're completely rebooting that system. How many people can go through a full day having never taken one slow, deep breath? That number is massive. It's millions and millions and millions of people. At the end of the day, they haven't breathed. And, would that make a difference in the quality of your life? It's like, well, imagine if you never rebooted your computer. Like, would it just keep running forever and be healthy forever? No, it wouldn't. At some point, it would have a problem. It's always kind of amazing in the computer world. You just hit that one button. It's like certain things just fix themselves. And that one button also we have. We just don't always remember to push it.
Yeah, so it's such a waste of potential. I feel when, as yoga teachers, we get too much into how to sequence, which body part to activate, which story to tie in, which music to play with, all of that. But that's so minor, that are such side
Mm,
aspects of
mm,
what we can really do to people, how we can really serve people by putting the breath first. Like oftentimes I get asked in teacher trainings, because we are teaching breath-based posture practice. I get asked like, okay, when I have beginners, like, shall I not first teach the postures, and when they know the postures, then I show how to breathe? It's like, no, first the breath, show how to breathe. The
yeah,
posture is really secondary, like
yeah,
what's happening in a muscle, in an exact joint, that's not that important. Like it is the breath that needs to be established, deep and complete and slow and regular. And all of our movements on the mat and also off the mat are just tying into this rhythm that we establish. And I remember for me that was really huge. It took so many years before I learned how to bring the breath into the practice. Like I came from asana practice being the tool for longer sitting and meditation. So this is how I came to posture practice. Like I wanted to practice postures so that I can sit more comfortably for meditation. And so there was definitely an interest the in the different techniques that are offered in the yoga spectrum, and the asana came more like as a helper for the more advanced techniques, so to speak. And for a long time, it stayed kind of there.
mm,
Um, I looked at asana from very different angles and perspectives, from the anatomy perspective, the alignment perspective, chakra work and whatnot, but like everything kept asana or the posture in the space of being just a preparation for something real.
Mm.
And as
Mm.
I learned that actually it is about the breath and how to move the body with the breath and how to develop the breath properly. The posture completely transformed the posture
Mm.
practice, and it became really a yoga practice, not
Beautiful.
something that prepares
Yeah.
the practice of yoga. And it took me really many years before seeing that or experiencing that, before, yeah, that came into my practice. And I felt that really brought deep meaning and the right place in a
Mm.
way to the postures. And I would really wish and hope that the popularity of yoga would bring that into our lives, make
Yes.
that
Yes.
accessible for everybody that
Yeah.
comes to the mat.
Yeah. And if you've made it this far with us and you see the unequivocal benefit of breath and breath inside of the practice of yoga, and you're not quite sure how to make that integration, Breath Essentials is for you. We have a free Breath Essentials course, which is all about doing exactly what Kirsten just shared, how to integrate the breath inside of the practice. And, when I was thinking about this podcast, I was thinking there's so much science on the benefit of slow breathing. Like we said, immune system, fuller, deeper breath, facial structure, teeth, sleep quality, longevity, just vagal tone, heart rate variability, blood pressure, like just on and on. The list is just like it doesn't end. And yet, even in most of those things, they're still looking at resting heart rates, which is what your body is doing when it's outside of practice. The point of practice is resetting that. It's like rebooting your computer. It really is. Long, slow, deep breaths with movement. Even the deep breathing practices that they would, advocate in a lot of the West don't include movement of the body. It's like the breath and the movement of the body is one. Sometimes it's almost like you can feel the cells inside, just like, yes, yes, give me breath. Like, breath is life. From the start of the podcast, it's like your first breath is an inhale, your last is an exhale. And to take a kind of turn into the spiritual, the pause in the breath is a natural part of the breath sequence. And yet, for most beings, if you're just walking through life and you're not aware of your breath, and maybe you're a little bit shallow breathing, sometimes mouth breathing, not very aware, it's very, very, very seldom that the breath will stop. My teacher in India used to say, be grateful for the inhalation, be grateful for the exhalation, be even more grateful for the space in between. And the radical potential of yoga and yoga practice to be able to influence your normal state of affairs off of the mat. That's what we say when we say taking yoga off the mat. So I'm walking through life. Am I still aware of my breath? Am I still aware of my spirit? Am I still aware of my joy? Am I still aware of all the things that are coming as a result of my practice? That's part of it also.
Maybe let's dive a little bit more into the spiritual implications of the breath. You already made this connection of breath is where prana comes from, is the source of increasing prana or getting into prana, tapping into prana. Um, can you speak a little bit more about the relationship of breath, prana, mind, and awakening, like
Wow,
change in consciousness?
that's a big one to unpack. But let's start with just breath and prana because I feel like there's a in the yoga world there's even misunderstanding about that. So prana is universal life force. It's what's animating everything, including plants, animals, human beings, everything else. All of life is animated by prana. And breath in most beings, when they're not conscious of it, it's reflecting their energetic state. So their energetic state is like, we can always say in yoga that the more subtle is influencing the less subtle. So the body's in its default state. The way that it's breathing is being influenced by something more subtle, which is what we would call pranamaya kosha in yoga, the body of prana, the pranic body. Most beings are unaware of the pranic body, and that's why it can be a difficult thing to teach. It's like this thing has massive influence on you on absolutely every single level, and yet to you it doesn't even exist. How to bridge that, like that's why pranayama, the art of playing with the life force and becoming aware of the life force and the movement of the life force, is such a difficult thing to teach, because oftentimes we're teaching people that don't have vast amounts of experience working with the pranic system. And yet, breath in a weird way, and it's like we all intuitively understand breath more than we think. Like sometimes you'll hear in a yoga class, in a hip opener, breathe into your hip. Is that possible from a Western scientific perspective? So absolutely not. It cannot be done. Your breath happens here. It's in your lung. It's oxygen exchange. When you're lying in a hip opener, can you breathe into your hip? Yeah. In fact, one woman on our course, she cured her scoliosis 90% with breath. She said she could just feel certain of the muscles were really tight. She just lied over a ball and just breathed into the tight side as much as she could every single day. And after, a month or 2 months, her spine was way straighter than it was before. Like the healing capacity of life force. When you're teaching pranayama, sometimes people will have these experiences. Though, Devdas, like suddenly there was this tingling in my shoulder, and it was doing all kinds of stuff. And what does that mean? It means there was tingling in your shoulder, and it was doing all kinds of stuff. Like the prana system, and part of this comes from the fact that we're used to thinking about energy as electricity, which is not intelligent. Electricity isn't intelligent, but prana is intelligent. Like if there's something moving in your shoulder and it's tingling and it's doing something, that's fantastic. It's intelligent. When you cut your hand, it fixes itself. Like how does it know how to fix itself? It's just an intelligent system. And the pranic system is also an intelligent system. It has its ways of moving in the body. Um, so just bringing that system online, and if you're interested in bringing that system online, the primary tool you'll use is the breath, has radical implications inside of a human life, just on the physical, not even on the more subtle. Um, for the more subtle, I can tell a kind of crazy story from my teacher in India, which was that when he was a child, he was in the habit of observing the breath in other people. He said he'd just be sitting on the bus even. He would just start to tune into the breath in the person next to him. And he said when he tuned in deeply enough to their life force, he could see what they were thinking. It's like we don't think of breath in that way at all. We think, oh, it's just, how I'm breathing. But the mind and the breath and the emotions and the breath are profoundly tied together. And on some level, we even know that. If someone's angry, we'll say, okay, take a deep breath and count to 10. It's like, what is that? It's just, okay, flood the system with prana, put it in its relaxed state, and reset the computer. But we only reset the computer in, you know, serious situations where we're angry or someone reminds us. It's like, but we could be resetting that computer every day and think about how profoundly that would influence our health and our well-being. Um, and now there's science to back a lot of that up. You were talking before about the limbic system and, you know, emotional response and how that's kind of like scientifically proven to be influenced by breath. It's like these things that kind of seem like they're very far out. They're quite well documented scientifically now.
Prana, or the way how prana moves, I'm thinking now into our nadi system,
Mm,
into Irda and Pingala, how basically the life force moves internally is very much tied to the states of consciousness, to
definitely.
Kundalini,
Definitely.
to awakening. This is what I wanted um, to move you towards, to share with us a bit about the relationship of prana and states of Kundalini or of breath and shifts in consciousness.
So that question I'll just put right back to you. Like, what's your experience?
My experience is that stillness, inner stillness, or stillness, maybe not inner stillness, stillness, totally reflects in the breath as also every other state
Sure.
does.
Yeah.
And that in a state of stillness, really the breath also comes to rest,
Yep.
I would say. Um, but it's very different than a forceful holding the breath at the top or the bottom of a
Of
breath, like an
course. Yeah.
inhale retention or an exhale retention is completely different than um, the stillness,
Yeah.
the inner stillness that
Yeah.
transfers to the breath
Yeah.
or shows in the breath.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful you're sharing. Like, something I've been contemplating a lot lately, and it relates to your sharing, and it's not super well articulated, so you guys will have to bear with me while we discuss it. But there are techniques in yoga that add energy. Like pranayama is that for the most part, not 100%, but as a general rule of thumb. And there are techniques that reveal to us the stillness. And what I've seen is that when that equation is imbalanced, it doesn't work well. If you just take energy and you never sit in the stillness, you get a
Mm-hmm.
bit overstimulated.
I can absolutely agree with that. Like
And
there,
oh, go ahead.
there was some times where I dived quite a bit deeper into Kundalini yoga practices, like mudras and bandhas and like techniques to actually awaken the Kundalini energy. And I did not back it up with enough awareness practice, and it's exactly what you just described. That kind of it stirs up so much energy,
Yeah.
but it stirs up the energy without a container that is
Yeah.
built to hold that, and it something chaotic
Yeah.
happens inside and reflects also into daily life.
And recently I've been thinking of that as the positive and the negative. Like the stillness being the negative in a certain weird way,
Mm-hmm.
and all the additive, like energetic techniques as being the positive. And it is possible also to be imbalanced on the negative. Like, which means I shouldn't say the name, but there are certain spiritual traditions where you just like force it out in the silence and you don't touch your body and you don't give your body even a minute of love. You just sweat it out until you find that silence. And it's just like, that's also a really imbalanced methodology. I was talking about it to somebody the other day, and I said sometimes in monasteries you'll see these older guys, and it's like they've just started to contract because they've just been taught to dump like they've only been taught the negative. They've not been taught to add. They've just been taught to subtract. And it's like you subtract and 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 you subtract, and something just gets so tight that it just isn't free. And some balance inside of practice, like, yes, add the breath, add the life, add the pranayama, add all these things, and sit in the silence and just let that be revealed, and really drink that, really drop all of your conceptual frameworks and just sit inside the profound silence of this unbroken moment, and then find the balance. Not too much addition, not too much subtraction. Like in the West, everyone's fond of addition and not very fond of subtraction. And so you have a lot of techniques that are just kind of like, they produce these incredible, instant, very profound effects. And that's just like you're over here, you're over here in the realm of addition. Is there benefit to that? Yeah, there might be, but it would benefit you a lot more if there was balance inside of that.
You open the door into breath work. There is, in some places, of spiritual seeking, quite a bit of attraction and popularity of breath work, which is not what's coming from yoga classically.
Yeah,
Um, and people feel that they have openings,
sure.
seeings,
Yeah,
understandings
yeah.
that is taking place. Um, what's your experience with it? I know that you also experimented a little with that for
Yeah.
a while because you wanted to know what people do
This is the fun game of
as a yogi.
yeah.
And like, I know that you really threw yourself into it for a while and then backed off completely. Can you share a little? What was your experience to be in and what made you back out of it?
So I just want to cover first like what the differences are in the methodology, because I feel like that's actually a more important understanding. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the modern breath work is kind of, I would call it experience based. It means like you're looking for a result
Yeah.
and you'd like this breath work to give you this result, and preferably as fast as possible and as strong as possible, so that you can have this experience, which is in a weird way, it is experience seeking.
Yeah.
It's like I want to go outside and I want to have that experience. And The yogic thing is not actually designed for that. It's not designed to give you an experience. It's designed to train your inner system to perceive the profound bliss that's already there. That's the that's the part of the phrase that is the most important to land. Like, you're not creating anything. You're not adding anything. You're just rigging the system in a way that it can actually become aware of what's already true. One of the great yogis of the modern world said, the sky is always blue. No matter what you do, it's blue. But there can be days in which it doesn't appear that way because there's just storms and clouds and things and you cannot see it. But whether or not you see it or not, it's there. And that's the same with yogic breathwork. It's like, what are you trying to do? You're trying to perceive the joy that is you. Are there clouds that can cloud that? Most people have, it's like, I had a rare glimpse of who I am. So, what? You're designed to live as who you are. You're not designed to glimpse who you are. Like, that's not the design of yogic breathwork. The design of yogic breathwork is, I would like to live in the awareness that the sky is blue. And, after so many years of practicing, more than 20 years of practicing more or less every day, I still practice. Why? It's just such a joy. It's such a joy. You rig your system to perceive the blue sky and it never gets old because it's just so beautiful. But it's not beautiful like an experience beautiful. It's not like, oh wow, the clouds parted for one moment and I saw the blue sky and then the clouds came back. It's not like that. It's just like the background of life is joy. And the yogic breathwork is designed to recalibrate your body to experience that joy. There's a conversation that happened between Yogananda and one of his students. And his student knew, I think, that Yogananda could do certain kind of fairly miraculous things. And his student just came to him and was like, give me samadhi. Just like, I'm going to force it out of you. And he just turned to the man and he said, if I give it to you right now, can you take it? And the man was like, no. Okay. Conversation finished. But that's because that man's used to looking at a cloudy sky. Like if you're used to looking at a cloudy sky and suddenly it's blue, it's a bit disorienting.
How does the breath play its role in that?
The breath is like, we could slow this down and say, in the old world, the word for breath and the word for spirit were the same word. And that's interesting all by itself. But like what we were talking about earlier with the positive and the negative, the positive is completely influenced by breath. The negative is completely influenced by breath. So, like, no matter what yogic technique that you're playing with, they're all profoundly influenced by breath. What you said is inside of the spaciousness, breath is naturally receding. That means it's kind of coming into the background. That's kind of a state that's a normal part of the breath state and a normal part of the human experience that's just not experienced that often anymore. It's like we're meant to not breathe.
Isn't that also happening in deep sleep in dystoria
Yeah,
states?
yeah. It's a normal part of life to not breathe. It's just that it's not that common for people to experience it anymore in the waking state consciously. But it is absolutely a normal part of life. It's a normal part of the breath rhythm. The breath rhythm is inhalation, exhalation, and pause. And pause is as important as inhalation or exhalation, unquestionably. We even said before, more important, in fact, because when you're resting in the silence, your breath is hardly moving or not moving. And is that a natural part of the life rhythm and the breath rhythm? Of course it is. It's like, that's beautiful. And on the positive side, playing with the breath and moving the breath and becoming aware of the breath and letting the breath be vital and, all of that, that also, the central component of that is breath. Now, it can be other things too. It can be mantra. It can be, there's other kind of quite positive practices that infuse the being with energy that are maybe not 100% related to the flow of the breath. But both sides are influenced heavily by breath. And, I think from the yogic science of things, it's actually about the pairing. It's like that's why when I teach breath work, I always have people sit in silence afterwards. Why? Because it's like you eat a meal, basically, and you need to digest your meal. And if you don't digest your meal, maybe later you feel a little weird. Um, and that also relates to what we were talking about before, which is a lot of modern breath work, which is like a seriously intense meal because you're looking for something, like, you're looking for an experience. And oftentimes just no digestive process at all. Just like, okay, I'm up and I'm on to my next thing. It's like, whoa, like that's really imbalanced from the perspective of yoga.
What I also really like about your approach to pranayama, I came from a more forceful approach to pranayama, which I also really enjoyed, like being a beginner to the world of consciousness and prana and yoga. There was also quite a thrill in what prana can
Can
do,
do. Yeah.
like in its really extremely strong
Yeah.
effects. But as I described earlier, like it really also kind of sometimes did disbalance life. What I really like about your approach to pranayama, and I think this is totally what comes in through the minus and what yoga is actually all about, is this refinement of perception. So you don't
Mm.
need a hammer blow. You, on the other hand, refine yourself to such an extent
Yeah.
that the experience of life
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
absolutely sufficient and more than that. Like this is, like you say, being present with the bliss within that's
Yeah.
always there. It is not that suddenly like tremendous amounts to yoga of bliss are carried inside the system and this is with what you're being, but more like I feel we are elevating the
Yeah.
perception so much or refining the perception so much to be able to hear all of that. And this is what I really like about your approach to pranayama. I feel it's a very balanced
Yeah.
approach. Like you're not giving experiences, like you are
No.
helping to refine the system.
And one of my mentees right now, who's a very, very, very beautiful being, I have her on the project. Every day look and differentiate what is inner joy and what is outer joy. And, everybody's, of course, at different points in their journey. I wouldn't give that exercise to everybody. But for her, I feel like it's been really, really incredible because it's just like, wow, outward joy, it's flashy. It's like, you know, it, it it's kind of a bit like the breath work we were talking about. It like it explodes and it has fireworks and it's. Inner joy is very quiet actually. It's like it's not announcing itself, it's not throwing any parties, it's just there. And one of my teachers said, there's a silent, roaring joy that's just always present. Silent, roaring joy. So, like, that is such a beautiful description.
Yeah.
It's like it's quiet, but it's not quiet. Like, it's noticeable. It's roaring, you know, like, but it's also quiet. And it doesn't really announce itself loudly, like, hey, I'm over here. It's just in the background. And that, at least to me, that feels so much more sustainable.
Mm.
It's like I feel like people chase outward a lot joy. And it's like that's a very unsustainable chase. Like you'll never capture it.
Also unreliable.
It's unreliable, it's unsustainable, it's just not happening.
No.
Uh, but the kind of inward joy of who and what you are, that's always there. It's never not there. If it appears that it's not there, it's very easy then to just self-inquire yourself out of that. It's like, well, wait a minute. My joy appears not to be here. Let's really look. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's there. Poof. It's just like gentle suggestion and you're back because it is there. Um, and different people are at different points on that journey. If you're in the point of establishing regular contact with that, it can seem like it's not that way. And that's a normal part of the process. There's nothing wrong. Um, you're establishing enough connection that you know it's there. I was just saying to somebody the other day, it's like if you love somebody, you can't wait to spend time together. Like if you love somebody, it's like you're just counting away the time until the next time that you see them. Like your spiritual practice has to be like that. Like it has to be like, oh, like I can't wait another minute. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. I cannot wait until I see you again. Like it's got to be right now. And when that is present, the constancy of that is not far away. Like it cannot be that, you know, if your heart is just cannot wait to for that, it cannot be that what you're waiting for is far away.
Yeah, because we really so profoundly believe in and see the massive importance of breath on every level, like from our day to day happiness to the impact or the role it plays in the practice. And also at the same time, we see how this is a major need in most of people. There's so little education about the breath. We really felt called to put together this breath essentials course, 3-day mini course, in which we really give you a hand to start deepening, exploring, developing your breath as breath alone, and also combined into yoga practice, paired with yoga practice, because really bringing the breath into the yoga practice is what makes it a yoga practice, which what makes it not being just a physical performance, but ties you deeply into spirit. And we're so thrilled to be able to share that with you. Breath essentials is something that we are very passionate about to really hand over to each and everybody to start developing their breath as a service to everyday life, to the improvement of everyday life.
Beautiful.
This was our podcast on why breath matters so much. It's really so much the foundation. And it is time well spent to invest into the development of your breath in whichever way. But it is a good investment.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.